Chapters 2 and 3 dealt with the identification and quantification of risks in order to determine those that are deemed most significant. Assessing and quantifying our risks is all very well, but it's what we then do about them that really matters. It may seem obvious, but simply identifying and rating our risks doesn't in itself make our business any more resilient. Chapters 4 and 5 address the issues of identifying and implementing appropriate countermeasures or mitigation measures. Now that we know which risks are the most significant, we can start to deal with them by identifying possible countermeasures. In general terms, the responses to our various risks can largely be divided into 4 categories, based on a combination of the likelihood and the impact. And the category that a particular risk falls into will, to a large extent, dictate the types of mitigation measures that are most appropriate. If the likelihood is low and the impact is low, it may be a perfectly reasonable decision to do nothing and to accept certain risks. For risks with a higher likelihood but a low impact, a sensible approach may be to manage and control them, for instance by improving and documenting processes, by providing adequate training and education, and by implementing controls and procedures to regularly monitor and review the situation. If the likelihood is low but the impact is high, in addition to insurance, contingency plans may well be appropriate. Often referred to as business continuity or in some cases disaster recovery plans, the purpose of contingency plans is to ensure that our business critical functions or processes can continue to an acceptable, perhaps emergency level in the event of some sort of catastrophic disruption. For risks with a high likelihood and a high impact, risk reduction measures are absolutely essential. For instance, hazardous or dangerous procedures may be modified, stringently controlled and monitored, or outsourced to someone more qualified or better equipped to carry them out safely. In extreme cases, if the potential downsides far outweigh the potential benefits, a decision to discontinue the activity altogether may be considered. Whichever category a particular risk falls into, the ultimate aim is to select and implement countermeasures that reduce the likelihood or impact, or both, to a level that we are prepared to accept. There's more information on identifying countermeasures in Chapter 4. Having determined which countermeasures we feel are sensible and cost-effective, we now need to turn our attention to implementing some of those countermeasures and deciding how much time, effort and money we want to invest in mitigating our more significant risks. Some countermeasures will be achievable without requiring significant resources or expenditure, whilst others may require considerable financial investment and may take some time to implement. The level of investment that you're prepared to make and the level of residual risk that you're prepared to live with can now be decided, dependent on available funds, the strategic view of senior management and the corporate risk appetite. Residual risk is discussed in Chapter 5 and risk appetite in Chapter 6. Once we've selected the countermeasures to be implemented, it's important that the implementation process is properly managed. The countermeasures that require significant effort, cost or time will probably need to be managed as a formal project with all that entails. Others may be relatively quick and easy to implement. Either way, it's important to allocate responsibility for implementing specific countermeasures, whether to a particular director or manager, a project manager or a member of staff. All too often risks are not properly mitigated because it was wrongly assumed that the proverbial someone else was dealing with it.